Hello and welcome to the Domestic Workers Chronicles. My name is Lindy Way, the founder of Made for You, the maid of all maids, the domestic of all domestics, the madam of all madams. This is a channel where we talk everything domestic workers, guys. Everything bo auntie, everything bo madame. Yes, and today I'm continuing with the same topic we had in the previous episodes, where we're talking about this myth, Yahori, Zimbabweans are better workers than South Africans are better than Lesotho is better than Zimbabwe, Malawi is better than Botswana is better than Swaziland. And we sort of want to unbundle that, having been in this space from 2008, we sort of want to sort of unbundle it and understand perhaps where this notion comes from or where the myth comes from, but also share with you our own experiences as to who do we think is a better worker, right? So there is one thing that we also need to acknowledge. We need to acknowledge that for the fact that there is a rumor or a myth about a certain kind of nationality, be it positive or negative, it is informed. It was informed. There's no way that a huge chunk of people can believe that South Africans are this, or Lesotho are this, or Zim are this, or Malawi, if there is no percentage of fact in regards to that. So we spoke about the strengths and weaknesses of South African workers, and we spoke about the strengths and weaknesses of the Lesotho workers. And today I'm going to speak about this one nationality that people actually like to engage on and debate about, which is Zimbabweans. And I'm going to sort of box them with Malawians, so I don't want to separate the two, but I will definitely speak a little bit about Malawians. So majority of our database, as most of you know, Made for You hosts over 100,000 domestic workers in our database. We have placed more than 10,000 domestic workers. We have more than 14 awards in terms of job creation, in terms of innovation, in terms of helping others, social entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. You can visit our website to have a look at these awards. And unfortunately, between 2019 and 2022, because we are in SMMEs, we had actually huge challenges, with me having a terrible accident in 2019 and being incapacitated, and going into 2020 thinking, oh, we're going to recover, and COVID hitting us. So we are at a place where we have grown, we are building better, and we have made a lot of mistakes as a business. We continue making mistakes. We have so many people that support what we do, that love what we do, and some of them might find that, oh, I was not happy because of 1, 2, 3. Please forgive us. We are still babies in this space, in the business space. But in the domestic space, I am a former domestic worker. I worked as a young domestic worker, and I furthered my studies and worked for the bank, finance, and moved on to become an entrepreneur. And little did I know that from a young age, while I was working as a domestic worker, so much would come out of it, and I'll have so much insight into that space. So today we're talking about Zimbabweans. So we have employers and employees and people in general who would say, but Lindiwe, I want a Zimbabwean to work for me. I don't want anyone else. Zimbabweans are the best workers. And you have other South Africans and other nationalities that would say, I don't want a Zimbabwean domestic worker. Why don't you want a Zimbabwean domestic worker? No, because they are using muti, and sometimes they just disappear on you, and they don't tell the truth most of the time, this and that, right? As I said on previous episodes, the fact that there is a myth or a rumor about a certain kind of topic, it is informed. So to a large extent, there are a number of domestic workers within this space that are Zimbabweans that have worked for good employers and have exploited the employers, ran away, stole from them, used muti, went to Zimbabwe, and they kept on saying they are burying their mother 16 times or their father 16 times. So we do know those stories exist, and we do know that you have those domestic workers from Zimbabwe that have indeed came up with these stories and have done these horrible things within this space. But we also need to acknowledge that we also have a majority of Zimbabwean domestic workers that are very good domestic workers, that also, like Lesotho nationals, have left their country due to the economic state of their country and came to South Africa to seek better. And like Lesotho nationals, these ladies have left their children. They left their fathers, their mothers, and everything to seek better in South Africa. So Zimbabwean domestics, when they come to South Africa, their main focus is to ensure that they are here to work. And why those who believe that Zimbabwean domestic workers are better workers, let me tell you why they believe that and how that got informed. Now, let's understand Zimbabwe as a country. Zimbabwe as a country, and during the presidency of Mugabe, the one thing that was encouraged was education. So whether we like it or not, most Zimbabweans are learned. Even if they are not learned to a level of a degree or a PhD or a master's, they have some kind of education, primary and high school level, right? So they sort of understand certain things. So they came to South Africa not because they lack education. So we need to make a fair comparison. So South Africans that come into the sector and say, I want to be a domestic worker, most of them is out of desperation. We need to be real about that, right? As much as we want it to be professional, we want it to be properly regulated, and we want to make sure that people can volunteer to be professional domestic workers and earn good salaries. At this stage, the transition is happening, but at this stage, when you look at 99.9% of domestic workers between the age of 25 and I would say 45 is people that are saying, I'm a former cleaner, I don't have any other job, let me do this. I don't have education, let me do this. Vis-a-vis Zimbabweans. So most Zimbabweans are learned. So most Zimbabweans have some kind of education, because in that country, I understand that education was a compulsory thing. So either they have proper primary school and high school education, some of them, actually most of them would have tertiary. So we had, they would have tertiary level education. We had domestic workers that were registering with us from Zimbabwe who are teachers, that they have teaching qualification, nursing qualifications, admin qualifications. I mean, these people will come with qualifications and they'll say, Lindy, when we are here in South Africa seeking greener pastures, we want to make sure we can provide something for our children. It doesn't help us to stay in Zimbabwe and cry. We feel that let's come here in our neighboring country, South Africa, because of course during the apartheid times we were also home to South Africa. Those who wanted to leave South Africa and seek refuge somewhere, these countries were open to them. So we feel not that we are forcing and because we feel like South Africa owes us because Makomoriti never Zimbabwe. No, it's because of the economic state, and therefore we as mothers we can't sit and say our children are hungry and do nothing. So we are coming here to sort of seek some kind of employment. Now you tell them, okay, give me your CV. They give you a very rich CV, right? And that CV will state their experience and it will state their education level. And when you're looking at them and you're looking at their personality, humble and respectful as they are, you get blown away, right? So we have to understand that Zimbabweans are learned. They come here with qualifications, but due to the economic status of their country, they come here to seek refuge and at least to work, to have some kind of work, so that they don't just sit in South Africa without contributing anything towards South Africa or making sure that they earn some kind of salary for their children. And when I speak about contribution, I'm talking about, remember, any nationality that work in South Africa, especially domestic workers, because we also disregard this, they need to be registered for UIF. They need to have SARS. They need to have compensation and injury on duty, COIDA. And those contributions goes directly to government. So as much as sometimes we are conflicted and feel like, oh, they are taking our jobs, they are doing this, we need to understand that when you do that, when you hire a Zimbabwean and you do it right, that Zimbabwean does not only contribute towards your country, but they also are able to make sure they take care of their families in Zimbabwe. So let's get back to the issue. They come here because they want to work. Their focus, their goal is that I am here to work and earn money for my family. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to find a husband. I'm not here to sit in the park. I'm not here. So the focus and the objective is sharp and it's clear. So when they come here and they come into your household and they start working, that's what they do. That's their focus, right? They're not here to play around. And remember, when they get that employment, they are not about to leave it, especially if it's a good employment, because madam threw a tantrum. They are not about to leave it because the child was crying too loud. It's all and that for them. Vis-a-vis a South African. A South African can simply say, you know what, Madam Khomut, you're stressing me out. I'm leaving. I'm going to my auntie's house next door. Or I'm going to go to Limpopo. I'm going to go to my relative in Soweto. I'm going to go to Cape Town. South Africans have that choice. So that's why sometimes at the back of their mind, they can get away with so much and they can sometimes act a certain way. Now, Zimbabweans are here to work. The focus, I am here to work. I cannot today, because a child was crying too loud, decide to resign, right? So they come here, they work. That is their strength. The second thing about Zimbabwean is that because of the level of education they have, they are socialized, guys. You know, and I need to sit on this point. They are socialized. When you have gone through primary school and gone through high school and gone through tertiary and maybe worked in a corporate or worked anywhere in government, you are socialized. You understand that at primary level, teacher is teacher and then vice principal and principal. You understand at high school, HOD principal, at tertiary, HOD whatnot. So you understand hierarchy because of your level of education. Right? By the time you join a corporate or you join government or you start working in a formal sector, when they say this is your supervisor, this is your manager, this is what, you understand that hierarchy because education affords you that. Right? Now, when you have a domestic worker that is not much educated, but she can do the work, I mean, we don't hire domestic workers because of the level of education. We look at the skill. She can do the work, but sometimes she misses that. She misses that. As much as Lindiwe is younger than me or is black than like me, it does not necessarily mean that we are friends. We still need to maintain employer and employee relationship. Now, Zimbabweans understand that, so they don't cross that line. They always make sure they maintain that employer and employee relationship. Their weakness, quickly. They also exit. They also leave. They also leave if they can have elements that they are not happy with within the job, they leave. If they get a better offer, remember their focus is making sure they get the money and provide. So they get greener pastures, they leave. They plan their exit, they don't communicate with you, but the one thing they'll tell you is they will say goodbye. They'll tell you, like, I'm leaving, because they don't want to offend you. They'll say my father died or somebody or any in Zimbabwe, I need to go, and then they don't come back. Right? So they do leave, and they would leave because sometimes your neighbor liked them and your neighbor wanted to offer them more, or your friend or somebody else or another agency offered them more because they are doing an amazing job, and therefore they will then choose to leave. You know, most of them will definitely say goodbye. But I'm emphasizing this before I close. We cannot judge a nation or a tribe or a group of people based on an individual behavior. So we need to be sensitive to say, if this Zimbabwean did this to me, used muti in my house, it does not necessarily mean that all Zimbabweans will use muti in my house. Thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe, like. Interact with us. Let's talk the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you so much for joining us. Marcos.